Let's talk Aaron Rodgers. He's going to make a decision here in the next 48 hours. Listen, I've said this for years. I root for captivating. I want more interesting stories. I spent every Sunday for 11 years at ESPN watching every Patriot snap. And as great as they were, as dynastic as they were, I got Patriot fatigue. I got Belichick-Brady fatigue. One of the reasons I'm rooting for Aaron Rodgers to leave, it's just more interesting. Denver's got better players, and let's be honest, Aaron Rodgers knows it. According to Ian Rappaport, a very sharp, dependable reporter, Aaron Rodgers is torn between staying in Green Bay and leaving. Well, if he had a Super Bowl roster, why would he be torn? He'd have a Super Bowl roster, his great relationships in Green Bay, and arguably the second worst division in football. He's going to get, therefore, a home field advantage playoff run and a bye. You're only torn if you think somewhere else has better players. He's not going to Denver because the division's easier. Mahomes, Herbert, Derek Carr twice a year. He's not going there because he has a community and a staff he knows well. He knows Nathaniel Hackett. He doesn't know everybody else well. He's torn because he knows Green Bay, if Davante Adams got injured, doesn't have a legitimate number one receiver on the roster and arguably doesn't have a legitimate number two receiver on the roster. And Davante Adams has been hurt, and it's the NFL. Players get hurt all the time. Look at the Rams last year. Robert Woods, injured, out for the season. OBJ, hurt in the Super Bowl. Davante Adams has a couple of injuries. Are you going to put your stock in a roster that's top-heavy with little star depth? Aaron knows Denver and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's got a much better defense. It's much more talented, a better defensive culture. Denver's got much better players offensively and much more depth offensively. Aaron knows it. They've got potential stars at safety, two really good corners. They've got an all-pro level left tackle, excellent depth at running back, Pro Bowl level tight end, 4 or 5 legitimate receiving targets. He's only torn for one reason. Because Denver's got better players. Also, what's more fun? Aaron leaving is more fun. Matt Stafford leaving was more fun. Brady having legitimate weapons is more fun. That's what I root for. I may be a sportscaster, but I'm a fan. So I am looking for Aaron to move. And oh, by the way, Packer fans, if he does, and I still think it's, 55-45 he stays in Green Bay. If he leaves, I don't want to hear this from Packer fans. We're sick of him anyway. Oh, really? Because you're the Packer fans the last 8 years when I've criticized Aaron for being high maintenance, needy, and kind of overrated in the postseason. You defended him to the hilt. So don't suddenly get amnesia and pretend like you aren't hurt. It's like when Lincoln Riley left Oklahoma. He's the best college football offensive coach in a sport that's leaning offensive. You're hurt. You're not burned because of the way he left. You're burned because he left. And you're going to be burned because Aaron potentially leaves. I don't want to hear you're done with him if he leaves, because you defended him at every stop along this 10-year odyssey of high maintenance. There's something very interesting and different between NFL fans and NBA fans. NBA players, the star players, have their own shoes. And many fans obviously buy those shoes. So you have a connection to an NBA star. Whereas you're not sitting around wearing cleats, even if you love Patrick Mahomes. And it's funny what that creates for sports fans. Westbrook still has massive defenders. He's now an atrocious player. He's a complete liability. The Lakers won the championship 2 years ago, had Phoenix on the rope last year. They bring in Westbrook. They still have AD. They still have LeBron. They add Malik Monk. Melo's been good. They've still got, some pieces there. Westbrook's ruined the chemistry. The previous 2 years, say what you want, the chemistry was great. Caruso, KCP, Kyle Kuzma. Here's the other thing about this trade. Kyle Kuzma now is a better player than Westbrook. He is. Fewer turnovers, higher field goal percentage, much, much better defender, more rebounds, more reliable, less of a head case. Lost in all of this Westbrook stuff is the fact the Lakers gave away a player who still has 4 to 5 to 6 years of prime left in Kyle Kuzma, and clearly Westbrook is a completely shot fighter. But yet he still has fans. In the NFL, Derek Carr, in chaos, led the Raiders to the playoffs. And outside of Raider fans, and even often among Raider fans, it's hard to find a large Derek Carr support group because you don't wear his shoes. I think a lot of that is the difference between NBA and NFL fans. NBA fans will keep the grasp on their favorite star. Even when Derrick Rose gets hurt, Derrick Rose is clearly not the same player. He's your guy. You got his shoes. You spent money on it. You'll wear him. There are guys all over the NFL that are really, really solid to above average players. Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr. They don't have nearly as much as support as a player in basketball that's an absolute liability today and has wrecked the Lakers, Russell Westbrook. So expect Mitch Trubisky, the former Bear quarterback and first-round pick, to be a starting quarterback next year, and you'll probably hear about it in the next few days. Keep your eye on the Steelers, the Washington football team, and the Colts. Jim Irsay, the owner of the Colts, is furious how the season ended. I think it's a big mistake, but they move off Carson Wentz, in my opinion, perhaps for Mitch Trubisky. A lot of people are pushing back. I can't believe Mitch Trubisky would get a second chance. Time out. If you live in Chicago, let me ask you a question. Is Matt Nagy a good coach? Oh, no, he's not. Okay. Is Mitch Trubisky a good quarterback? Oh, no, he's not. Then how did he get to the playoffs twice? You got to be good at one of those two positions to make the playoffs in the NFL. You do get that, right? Best quarterback won every division in the NFL. In a division with Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers, Mitch Trubisky made the playoffs twice, and they fired Matt Nagy. Now, I've never been a Trubisky fan, but we see Mitch Trubisky all the time. It's called Teddy Bridgewater. We all know this in the NFL. They're franchise quarterbacks. Okay, you got your franchise quarterbacks, then you got your backup quarterbacks. But there's a third group. It's called bridge quarterbacks. You're not going to give him a 5-year deal. You're not going to build around him. And the leader of the bridge club is Ryan Fitzpatrick, and the guys that often join him are Tyrod Taylor, Teddy Bridgewater, and now Mitch Trubisky. There's got to be a third group in there beyond franchise guys you pay the big bucks to and backups. And there is. And it's a tiny group, but Bridgewater, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Tyrod Taylor, and Mitch Trubisky are your classic bridge quarterbacks. You give them a 3-year deal. You can get out of it after 2. You draft a quarterback perhaps behind him. They are good enough to win games and keep you playoff viable. And I do believe with the Colts or the Steelers, Mitch Trubisky, and I'm not a fan, is good enough to do that. So is Teddy Bridgewater. So Coach K coached his last game at Cameron Indoor. Jerry Seinfeld was there and Adam Silver was there and a bunch of former Dukies were there. Too bad Duke didn't show up. They got hammered by North Carolina. You know, I tell my kids all the time that don't get discouraged because even for really talented, successful people, being really successful is hard. You watch that MJ documentary. He was fighting with the owner, the GM, Dennis Rodman, coaches. Phil Jackson was his third Bulls coach. He didn't make any playoff series as a winner. He never won a playoff series. Michael Jordan never won a playoff series without Scottie Pippen. And he's arguably the best basketball player of all time. Most of you think he's the greatest basketball player of all time. Couldn't win a playoff series without Scottie Pippen. The point is, he overcame. Even for the great ones, it's hard. Coach K won over 500 more games than John Wooden. If you read the book by Ian O'Connor, Coach K, The Reign and Rise of Mike Krzyzewski, he was almost fired. When he got the job, it was a shocker. He was roundly criticized because he had a losing record at his previous stop, Army. The one-and-done culture gave Duke fits. And before Johnny Dawkins, you weren't really sure if they were ever going to be an elite annual program. It was hard for the greatest college basketball coach of all time. It was hard for the greatest basketball player of all time. Michael Jordan retired in the middle of his career to play minor league baseball, and then retired again, and then came back again. All the greats, coaching, executives, players, It's not where you go to school. It's not just your measurables. To me, the common thread is always fight and resilience. MJ was resilient. Coach K was resilient. Go read that book by Ian O'Connor. It is remarkable the struggles for over 30 years Duke had multiple times, teetering on the edge of irrelevance, and he overcame. You'll figure out very quickly in that book the one thing Krzyzewski was. Day one, a fighter. So a story last week, the Cowboys, according to Adam Schefter, are going to move off expensive wideout Amari Cooper. I don't love the move, and I said that on FS1 and on iHeartRadio. Dak Prescott with Amari Cooper and Dak Prescott without Amari Cooper, with him and without him, he's two different quarterbacks. And without him, he's a B-minus quarterback. With him, he's a B-plus, A-minus quarterback. That's the difference between winning playoff games and losing them. But what do we learn from the Amari Cooper situation? Well, I've always had an opinion, because I think many of you know that have listened to me. I would love to be a general manager of an NFL team. I'm certainly not qualified. But if I'd have spent 30 years pursuing that and not broadcasting, who knows? Maybe I get lucky. And if I ran a team, and I've talked to GMs about this, I would pay big money rarely with total discretion, and I would almost never pay early. A rare exception is Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Russell Wilson. When you're looking at a guy that is clearly a Hall of Fame talent, arm, brains, movement, players like him, there's a handful of quarterbacks you just do it for. But the Cowboys paid Ezekiel Elliott not only early, 2 years early, at a position running back that most shrewd general managers don't believe you ever pay early, because it takes more of a physical beating than any other position that touches the football. You can't hit receivers, can't hit tight ends, can't hit quarterbacks like you used to be able to. You can still drill from any angle a running back. The Dallas Cowboys front office is now paying a price for a move that was very, very easy to predict. They paid a running back 2 years early. And now their second best running back is Ezekiel Elliott. I don't like this move. CeeDee Lamb had one catch against the Niners, case of the drops last year. Michael Gallup's coming off an ACL surgery. Cedric Wilson's a 3. They're going to have to go to the draft. And because they were a playoff team, they're not taking high enough in the first or second round unless they trade up to get really the top 4 or 5 receivers available. And Dallas is in a win-now window, right? They're not into developing a slot receiver from the 3rd round. They need a guy to come in and be productive. And there'll be maybe 4 or 5 of those guys. They're not going to get them. Don't pay running backs early. Never pay running backs 2 years early.